We're rolling.
You are Patrick Bateman.
I am your Peter Michaels. This is The Road, the Stage.
Moving into double digits for episodes.
Yes.
Right? Episode 10. I'm curious to know, this is going to be our first delve into a little bit of a different genre than we've covered before on the show.
Certainly. A genre that we are not, listen, we're not trying to shy away from any kind of music here on The Road, the Stage, and we knew that this day would come.
As a matter of fact, we want to be as open to all kinds of genres, for sure. We want to get guests from all over.
So we're very excited about it, and coincidentally, it's kind of a trend in our, schedule right now is booking bands that are outside of the first few episodes, anyways. But you had a lot of fun with this episode, absolutely, because you knew who to talk about in the country world.
And I don't know if this is the difference in our raising. But I am an rural Alberta, born and raised kid.
Yeah.
You are an Ontario kid, city raised.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I would imagine you didn't have a lot of country influence.
I had a phase.
Did you have
a phase that would probably surprise you?
Well, I'm ready to hear about it.
Well, maybe we should talk about that at the end of the episode. In fact, I think we should.
What the hell? You and the tease. My good God.
All right. So, but the reason I say that is not to tease necessarily, but we do have some exciting news for us here at The Road, the Stage. We're broadcasting live from the Communal Creative Studios, Red Deer, Alberta, Bose Bar and Stage, and
we welcome Go Services Inc.
Yes.
Which, you know what? Have you met Dustin before from
Not
Go Services
yet.
Inc.? Okay.
Not yet. We're going to meet any day now.
And you will. Dustin's a big supporter of live music. And actually, I was just talking to him the other day about the Black Pistol Fire show at Bose and how disappointed he was that the Blue Stones ended up, not happening because of the pandemic. So Dustin's a big supporter of the local music scene, and well, he's got the stuff that will apply to it as well. Like, if you go to a festival.
When you think about concerts, outdoor concerts. This is how Family Feud works, right? They say, outdoor concerts, and you have to list off things that you think of or something.
The top 6 answers are on the board.
Right. This might be one of them.
This is definitely a top 6 item. You want to have good, clean, portable toilets.
Yes, it is true.
And that is just one facet of what Go Services Inc. does here in Red Deer and across the province as well. But yeah, the chances are pretty good if you've used an outdoor toilet, you've seen the Go Services Inc. logo on the side of it around Red Deer. And they do more than that, waste bins.
Right.
And just very, very proud local community supporters as well.
And music fans. And, I could go on for hours about my love for porta potties. You're probably not surprised that I've spent lots of time thinking about porta potties well before we're able to welcome Go Services Inc. So we'll probably get to some of those. I mean, do you have fond memories of porta potties and your music going? You
know what? As a matter of fact,
yeah, you do. Of course,
I'm going to pull out the old Patrick Bateman tease, and we're going to save this for another time.
Exactly.
But I have, a very interesting experience with porta potties at the Calgary Stampede one year.
Well, when I meet Dustin, I'd like to talk to him about the advance in technology in porta potties because it is quite remarkable.
And we also, of course, want to do a big thanks to Tourism Red Deer and Sawback Brewing Company as well, who have a pretty distinct connection to the band we are about to talk about.
And that is?
Beer.
No. Who's the band?
Oh. Sorry. I like beer, and that's on the brain right now. So can we talk about beer? The beer is called Hammer Down.
Yes.
And the
brand
new beer, and brewed in collaboration with the legendary Road Hammers. You guys are all good and rolling back there?
Game on.
We got the, I don't think, have you guys played Bose? Obviously, Clayton, you've been through Bose before, but I don't know that we've actually had you guys play proper at Bose.
No, I think that's what we need to do next. I think this is the next steps.
The Bose?
The Bose.
Yeah, we need to play Bose Stage and Grill. It's an awesome venue.
All right, so we've got Chris and Clayton both in Alberta, and Jason's out in Ontario.
That's right.
Right on.
Product placement going on here.
Yeah, we got some good product placement going there. Yeah.
I mean, first off, I guess congrats on not just the new single, but also the new beer. That's very exciting.
Thank you. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So you guys teamed up with Sawback Brewing in Red Deer, and Clayton, it was a connection between you and Scott went to school together. Is that kind of how things got rolling there?
Yeah, we attended music college together there in Red Deer, and we just, we remained friends over the years, and we did some work together with Sawback. I played their anniversary party a few years ago, and of course, after we're having a few beers and we're just yucking it up, going, man, would it be great to have make a beer like a road hammer beer? And we both got to stop for a second. But that could be a really cool idea.
So let's go around the room a little bit. What kind of beers? So we'll start with you, Clayton. What kind of beers do you typically drink and enjoy?
The cold one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not picky.
Cold and free.
I'm cold and free. Those are my favorite beers. But I'm more of a lighter beer kind of guy. When I'm enjoying, most of them are in the summer. So a light beer in the summer with my feet up is always a good thing. Good combo.
All right, Jason, how about you?
You know what? Before the whole pandemic hit, I really liked Corona, and now I just seriously. Really. But and this isn't playing to the crowd. I actually really like the Hammer Down Lager. The only problem is I only had 4 shipped out to me, so I've got 1 left to open.
Wow.
I really like that. I'm more of a lighter beer too, and I'm kind of a hot sun, cutting the grass, job well done kind of guy.
Yeah, this one fits that bill. All right, Chris, we finally get to hear from you.
Well, back in the day, I used to drink Old Stock and lots of it.
Classic.
I haven't had a drink in over 18 years, so I'm not really the guy to be asking about what beer I like.
That's totally fair.
More than fair. And I'm sure Clayton and Jason, you guys didn't mind getting Chris's share.
Yeah, right.
No, I always we always make sure that they supply enough beer for 3 people, and then I usually take the extras.
I always tell those guys, "Hey, man, you're drinking for 2, so get at it."
All right, well, I'm ready to crack this one. I don't know, Jason, is yours open there?
There you go. Mine's not open yet.
All right,
It
well,
will be.
no time like the present.
So you stick the key down here.
Is that okay? We're shotgunning on a Thursday afternoon?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Happy Thursday, fellas.
I'm gonna refrain from that for the time being, but I haven't tried this yet. Peter has.
Yeah, this is actually if you thought about, I want to make my own beer. It's like all things to all people all the time. It actually is this. So, and I'm not much of a beer drinker. Like I said, I'm kind of more of the Mexican, the Sol, the Corona stuff.
Yeah.
So when it comes to actual beers, I'm more of a light guy. But this is actually great because it is when it's really cold. It is that after you're cutting the grass and job well done, sitting on the deck in the sun, it's perfect.
Can we call them like a dad beer? Like that's a good this is exactly what my dad drank when I was.
I don't know, man. That sounds. Does dad beer sound? I don't know. I guess it could be cool.
It's
cool. It's cool.
This is a good. It's a good party beer. That's it.
Okay. Responsible.
I don't know if you've got the the ingredients here. They don't put them in, but it's actually got a drop of sweat from after show sweat in each can,
which you guys have just coincidentally been collecting for the last decade or so.
It's made
I keep it
man punch, real man punch.
Just get that aroma off of there is just it's there.
So lately, in the last few years, especially with this craft beer explosion, I think it's I would assume it's an honor to have a beer named after you, to be able to collaborate on a beer. Can you talk more about the actual collaboration process between the Roadhammers and Sawback Brewing?
Well, really, it was a matter of, we do what we do, which is make up stuff that rhymes, and they make great beer. So we just showed up and said, hey, tastes good to us. I think the thing was just, something that was reflective of what we do, and that's, the folks who are Hammer fans, we're just like them, blue-collar folks who like to do a good job and do our best and, get a good reward, and that's exactly what this beer tastes like.
Very cool. I appreciate that explanation a lot. That's very flavorful.
It's very definitely. Like a lager is pretty much your traditional kind of, like you say, mowing the lawn kind of beer. But these ones typically have a little bit more flavor than you're going to find in your Corona.
Yeah, and I think Clay, you hit the head, it's got a lot of rock and roll to it. It's it's a good rock and roll at a bar or at a festival. This is the taste of the beer you taste when you want to taste when you're at a festival and you hear the music kind of floating on the night air, that kind of thing. And it's a really good summer beer. Okay, so let's segue that into, is this a little bit of the calm before the storm? I know you guys have some dates that have been announced, like in Edmonton at the end of August with the outdoor festival that's happening there. How are things feeling right now?
I think we're all cautiously optimistic, that we're going to get rocking again. We're playing a show. I know it's limited capacity right now, but we're playing at the Calgary Stampede in July. We've got the show in August in Edmonton, the Together Again festival. So we're really excited that things look like they could be coming together, and maybe in the fall be wide open again. And I think that not only does our industry need it, but the whole world needs it right now. We need to just get back to being together. We're social animals. We don't do well locked indoors.
So maybe take us into it if you can. So let's just picture, Stampede, let's say, is the next show that you guys are the first show out of the gates. What do you think that moment is going to be like 15 minutes before stage time?
Well, probably like kids in a candy shop. We're going to feel like we're 18 in our first band and can't believe we actually have a real gig, That's what it feels like. I mean, management sends you this gig, and you're like, okay, yeah, we booked your flight. Really? They're going to actually let us go there and be loud. I think that's the big thing. I think a lot of people are feeling that when they buy a ticket and they actually get ready to go to a show, a real live show. It's believe it when you see it kind of thing. But it's going to be, I think, fever pitch. Those shows you play your whole career, and there's 2 or 3 shows that are standout. This is going to be one for the books. We're going to remember this forever.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. We actually had a Calgary band in our studio here, Communal Creative Studios, on Monday night, and it was my first experience with some form of live music in well over a year. It was I thought I'd prepared myself for how amazing it would feel, but I definitely didn't. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. It's a good feeling. Music has that. It's that intersection of where your soul and music meet. There's that magic that's just beyond explanation. I think that's going to be one of those nights. We're pretty excited about it. Beyond that, it's more of the relearning the tunes, seeing if we still know how to play guitar, which is a bit of a challenge, but also getting together as a band. And I think for the last year everybody's been an avatar. This is just so weird. So can't wait to actually not just hear people's instruments and their drums and all that, but feel the percussion from it. That's what I miss. We've been writing lots on Zoom. You record a lot, over computer and into the computer. It's different when you actually feel the amps.
That honestly, that's the biggest thing with those guys in the room here a couple of nights ago was just the feeling, especially once the drums got going and that kick is just kind of rolling through you.
Yeah, I need my earplugs again, for sure.
No, you don't.
So with the new track, The Boys Are Back at It, like, can you guys explain the length of this process? Was this something that you'd had planned pre-pandemic? Was it something you cooked up and, as you put it, as avatars in the video conference world over the last year and a half?
Well, I think the song was actually pre-pandemic, but it was originally written with some great friends of ours, Derek Rattan and Jason Blaine, out in Nashville. But I think right shortly after that song was written, everything started to kind of unfold the way it did. And it took on a whole other meaning now, I believe. Before it was just like, hey, the band's back at it. We took some time between the last record, and we're back making country rock and roll again. And that turned into something that's more like, we all are ready to get back at it now, back to life, back to living, back to live music.
So what's the key thing when you because and I know, Clayton, you write a lot of songs for other artists as well. You've been working with Weapons quite a bit as of late. When you go in and you write a song like that, what is the key trigger that makes you go, this is a Hammers tune? Are you going in specifically to write a Hammer song, or is it?
Yeah, we were on that regards, and I think I speak for all of the guys. The one great thing about the Hammers is that we have a really small niche, that we have to fill. We know exactly what the brand is, what the band is all about, what we want to say. So sometimes that can make it easier to write songs. Sometimes it can be difficult because you have a song idea and you get halfway down the road and like, this isn't a Roadhammer song. It might be a good song, but it might not be a Roadhammer song.
So I love the collaborations that you guys get to do. You've worked with a multitude of artists. Chris, I wanted to ask you specifically, I saw an Instagram post that you did about getting to play with Gordie Johnson and Big Sugar. And your quote in that post was, they say you should never meet your heroes. Fuck that. Meet them, become friends with them, and play with them. So maybe tell us a little bit about what it's like to play with such a talent like Gordie.
Well, we actually, we all met Gordie through Clay. I think Clay was the first to make contact with Gordie. And we've known him for years, and we write together, record together, and hang out, see each other at least once a year at different awards festivals. But Big Ben, his actual bass player, couldn't make 2 shows for some reason, and so Gordy called me up and said, "Hey man, can you fill in for a couple of gigs?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course," you know. So I learned the show and went and did a couple of gigs with him, and it was a riot. You know, what a great bunch of folks those guys are. And I mean, it's Big Sugar music, right? So who doesn't love that, right?
Speaking of earplugs.
Yeah.
There's such a good groove to, I imagine, playing bass for Big Sugar, because there is such a groove to their stuff as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. And Gordy's just the greatest too, you know, so it was awesome.
You did that cover with him on, I don't know if, I think it was your Instagram that you guys shared it in the last few months with Gordy. He was on drums, playing guitar. Clayton, you were singing and playing harmonica. Everyone was doing something. That looked like a lot of fun, but I am curious, like, how was that one take kind of process? Because obviously we can, the viewer can see it happening across different squares on the Zoom call, but how hard was it to put that together?
That was Gordy. He did it all. I mean, he's, you know, a super producer. He kind of sent around the parts. It was, you know, a COVID thing, so it was like everybody doing their own thing in their own world. But it was digging a hole, right? So, I mean, it was with the hammers. He called it digging a hammer, which is pretty awesome. But just great to be on an iconic track. I mean, the thing about Big Sugar music is it's not, you know, it's not cookie cutter, right? So you have to, you know these songs from the DNA of listening to the records a lot and growing up with them, or, you know, learning them over the years, and to be part of, you know, playing with this track, and you're like, I've heard this a million times on the radio. You know it instinctively, but there's a little nuance here and there, and then you can't believe you're like, I'm playing on this track. Like it's iconic stuff. Like as a musician too, not just as a fan, but as a musician, you're like, this is heavy stuff. This is music that musicians around the world look to and go, wow, that's badass.
Mm-hmm.
So not only have you guys not been able to play together over the last little while, but you also miss out on, like, when you go to festivals, right? It seems like a pretty close-knit group of guys that you're usually touring with. You get to go and play in Gordy and have those experiences. What's it going to be like getting out and being on the road again and doing shows with your buddies? Not just you guys getting back together, but reconnecting with some musician friends.
It'll be interesting to see how everybody's doing, you know. I mean, we're just like everybody else. I mean, we miss our friends, and for a lot of it, I mean, other musicians are our friends, right? And that's when we get to see them, is in the summertime, you know, backstage at these festivals. So it'll be catching up, you know, and see who's got more kids, who's got, you know.
Know what you've been doing over COVID.
Yeah. I know, every time I think that on Instagram, it's like everybody's, you know, either had a kid or having kids, or, you know,
having very small weddings.
Locked in the house.
Yeah.
And do you think? Will everything just kind of switch? Like, you guys have been at home now for so long, and probably, you know, gotten into the roles of being a dad and all that home stuff. Is it going to be just a flick of the switch and you'll be back into rock and roll mode?
My wife is so happy I'm leaving the house. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm
going to show up at the first gig with slippers on. And you're like, oh man, oh no.
Great track pants. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see on your social media a lot, Jason. It looks like you're doing a lot of building around the house, and there's lots of projects getting done. So,
you know what? We're having a great time. We got a boat last year when this all started, and spending time on the boat. We're actually in the middle of ripping our barn down right now, which is a lot of work, but it's good work. You know, there's a lot going on, and it's great to be around the family. And one thing I'm going to do when we get back on the road is make sure that, you know, when it makes sense, that we get the family out more. You know, the last few years, you kind of, as you do it more in your career, you kind of go, wow, you know what? It's just dad going playing. And, you know, I want my kids to come out and experience, not the shows, but per se, but I want them to come out and experience more of Canada. We used to do that, and we get them on the bus, and you know, remember taking my kids out to the mountains, and got lots of memories of doing that. But I want to do more of that. I want to make more memories as we go along, and not just show up, do a show, and then, you know, leave town. I want to experience it and soak it in as a family.
No, it sounds like an incredible opportunity.
I think it's been you know, this pandemic lockdown has given us a moment to kind of reflect too, because you don't realize how flat out you're going 24/7, and then when the wheels stop turning, it's like, oh yeah, maybe it is all right. It feels all right to just take a breather. And I think creatively too, we're going to see I feel it in our band, and I think we're going to see it in tons of other acts, a real renaissance in great music. Not just this, because you're always you got to go so flat out in the music business to even make a living, that you don't you're always trying to squeeze in creative writing and creative process in between touring and media and everything else that involves being in a band. So you don't have any time to really just focus, like back in the 70s and 80s when they took years in the studio to make a record. That doesn't happen anymore. But because we were forced to sit and be still, suddenly after a couple of weeks of being still, it's like, oh, hey, you know what? I got this idea and I got another idea. Where are all these ideas coming from? Oh, it's because I got time to think about them. I'm not running like a wild banshee, you know, with my hair straight back, running across the countryside. So I think that's really one thing that's going to come out of this too, is great music.
Yeah, and I think we've already starting to see the floodgates opened up
for sure
already, including your guys' new song. You talked about bringing your kids out, Jason. Was there anything with you guys as youngsters that got you adjusted to life on the road? Like, did you guys travel lots when you were kids? I know.
No, you know, when I was a kid, we, like I said, we lived in Camrose, and some of the first memories I have, you know, got into country because of my dad. He played a few chords on the guitar, and we had an old yellow fridge in the kitchen. We had a radio on top of it, and we listened to, CFCW and the Hog and Feed Report every 15 minutes. And it was a pretty good life. And then when I started touring as a teenager, it wasn't too late. Yeah, about 19, 20, my wife actually, my girlfriend then, traveled with me. We went all around the world, you know, doing the solo thing. And before we started the Hammers, and by that time she'd gone back to nursing school, and then when we started the Hammers, it was really, you know, me doing my thing, right? So, but in my early years, it was traveling with her, and that was really special. So that to me is what makes me want to bring the family out more when we're doing Hammer shows, and just whenever we get the chance to get out and experience something.
For me, I grew up, I was a dirt bike brat, and my dad and I both raced motocross, and we were on the road all the time as a kid, driving from one race to another. So I think I kind of got that travel bug there, and I've always kind of had this desire to know what's around the next river bend. So I love the travel part of being in a band, and I think Chris said it well too, that, you know, unlike most people, your friends are in your community that you live in or where you're around. For us, at least, you know, a lot of times our friends live in other in other towns and other cities, sometimes other countries. We see them when we're out on the road. That's how we get to commune with our peers and our friend group. So that's been something that's been a real hole that I'm looking forward to, you know, getting back to being around those kind of folks, getting around our friends.
Are there any specific places or stages that you guys are more excited to get to than maybe some others that you haven't been to in a long time?
Chris?
All of them.
Yeah.
just anywhere, please.
Well, we had, I know we had some
Stampede's coming up, because Stampede is, you know, living in Calgary. It's hometown, right? So yeah, I can't wait to get there. Mm-hmm. Clay?
We had some stuff, we were booked over in France and Spain right before the pandemic, and really looking forward to getting back to Europe and Australia as well. Of course, Canada, our backyard. Anywhere we can get out and play, that's where the Hammer fans were born, and we're servicing a now probably second generation of Hammer fans.
Yep.
Already after almost 20 years. It's pretty rad.
Probably some Hammer music on during the conception of.
Careful now.
Okay, easy. All right.
You know, one can only venture to guess which song that would be. I died.
Put the hammer down. I'm a road hammer. Hammer time. Never.
On the subject of stages, you guys got to play the stage, right, in the Grand Ole Opry?
Yeah, what an amazing experience. Our friend Pete Fisher was the general manager of the Opry at the time, and he's been really instrumental in a lot of Canadians making their way to the Opry stage. It was actually 2004. Terry Clark was the first Canadian female to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry. And so, here's a girl who's born in Montreal, but, grew up in Medicine Hat. So really amazing that, that groundbreaking, path was laid for all sorts of Canadian artists. But Pete Fisher was instrumental in that. he also used to manage Paul Brandt. So, Pete has a real genuine love for Canadian talent, and he's gone on to now work with the Academy of Country Music. So, we've got some good friends in Nashville who paved the way for a lot of folks from Canada, and it was an amazing night. I mean, we got to meet. Well, we used little Jimmy Dickens' dressing room. It was just before he passed. He was ill, so it's pretty humbling to be there. And Charlie Daniels and Loretta Lynn saying hello. It was a
wow,
magical.
Wow.
We got to play. We played 2 nights back to back, sold out shows. We didn't because little Jimmy got sick. They asked us to fill in on the second night, right when we walked off the stage. They were like, "Great job, fellas." We got our first night, we had a standing ovation. We played the Eastbound and Down. Jerry Reed had just passed away, and we dedicated that song to him, and the place erupted, and everyone was still on their feet. I remember getting down and kissing the Opry stage, and it was definitely a moment I'll never forget.
Yeah, I know. I had the chance to go to Maple Leaf Gardens for one game growing up west. Of course, you don't get to get into the Gardens that often, but I imagine the Opry's got to be the same. I wasn't a Leafs fan. My dad was, but I remember walking into Maple Leaf Gardens, and you could just it's hard to describe, but you could
sacred space.
You could feel it. Like you just felt the history, and I imagine the Grand Ole Opry's got to be the same.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, they have they talk about the Circle of Wood. They've taken the circle from the Ryman Auditorium. So we were at the one out on Ryley, the new Opry, and it's steeped in tradition. I mean, and even walking into the old Ryman downtown, it's all about the history of country music, and they talk about it's exactly what country music is. It's the story of the people, and it's the history of the people. So it's a music we all grew up loving, and we can't help but be influenced by those who've played there before.
Mm.
Now, talking about covers, you said you played Eastbound and Down there, and your covers are legendary. So I think from what I read, it's a 7-song EP that's going to follow the single?
I think it's 6. We had a 7th. It's a special project that's going to come out a little later, and we've got a rock and roll guest on there. It's pretty amazing. It's a collaborative with one of our favorite Canadian rock bands. We'll leave that to your imagination. But the rest of the record, we've got Megan Patrick joining us on a track, Tim Hicks, and then we've got a song called All My Friends. One of our producers, Dan Davidson, who's a fine Alberta boy and just an amazing talent. We wrote and produced a couple of songs with him. We've got a song called All My Friends with Dan, Terry Clark, Corey Marks, Tim Hicks, Gordy Johnson, all the people we've been talking about, Jason Blaine. So it's great to have so many talented friends you can call them and say, "Hey man, will you play on our record?"
I know you're not busy. I know you're probably just at home for the next month, so you can help us out.
Yeah, that's right. I know you're not doing anything, but you know what? This has been a very busy time for everybody. Clay and Chris, you guys have been writing up a storm. I know Jason, he's in Nashville and a very in-demand songwriter. So as all these artists are, it's just amazing that with the power of Zoom and all these different technologies, we're able to write with people all around the world anytime. So a lot of these artists are writing, maybe even 2-3 times a day. Mm-hmm. So to get them to take some time out of their schedule to join us is really amazing.
Very cool. Is there something in country music now or something that you see coming in the future that really excites you that may have been different than the last decade or so?
The new Roadhammer EP.
Okay, fair enough.
No, so many things. There's great trends. Like right now in country music, it's exactly what country music does time and time again. There's a very pop element to it. So you got your Dan and Shays and all these guys on the pop side, which is really great. And then you've got people being played right alongside that. Your John Party. So you got your Texas influence, which is he's like the equivalent of the George Strait slot that would have been 10, 15 years ago. And then you've also got that wild card, that real rootsy stuff. And that's, your Chris Stapletons and Ashley McBride, who's, she's a protege of James Joyce, who did all that great Eric Church stuff. So I think seeing the fact that the arms of country music are open even wider than they've ever been. There used to be, okay, we'll allow some pop, we'll allow some real traditional stuff, but it was always this kind of, the lane was this wide, right?
Yeah.
Even though there's definitely two sides of the street. But now the arms have been open way wide. You've got Elle King doing these duets with Miranda Lambert, Drunk and I Don't Want to Go Home. So you can walk into a pop bar or whatever it is, like kids on TikTok, in these videos and stuff doing that. But they're doing the same thing with John Party music. And it's transcending all generations and all genre and people. It's amazing.
Now, I love that you bring up the TikTok because I'm having a real.
Did you say the TikTok?
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm on the Facebook.
The Facebook.
The older you get, you put the in front of stuff. Like, if you don't have gout, you say I have the gout, right? So now I'm on the TikTok.
How did you know I have the gout? Okay. Sorry, TikTok.
That's another podcast.
Welcome to the club.
Gout Talk is another.
So
podcast.
Obviously, and I think we're pretty close to the same age, but you're much more hip than I am. So did your kids help you get into that, or because I can't wrap my head around that platform for the life of me?
I actually texted Clay. I was like, "How do you do blah blah?" And he goes, "Oh, my kids did it." And I was like, "Oh." Yeah. So I called my daughter, and she's like, "There you go, idiot."
Yeah,
it's amazing.
My kids. I told my kids when I started TikTok, I said, "You got to follow me so I can be cool." So it's a weird one, but it's a lot of fun. I think it leaves a lot to the imagination creatively. When you're making these little videos and stuff like that. And a great way to, and it's again trying to keep up on trends. It's a new way that the next wave of music listeners are discovering music, digesting music, so just wanting to keep on top of that and be a part of whatever's going on.
Well, you're straight up teaching your followers how to play riffs and stuff on there, I saw.
I don't know if I'm playing them correctly, but I'm just going for it.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to do an actual. So we're doing an actual TikTok right now. Doing a podcast,
well, look at that.
Talking about TikTok. Look at that. Woo!
Patrick, it's your first TikTok.
My first TikTok. I think it's Pete's too.
No.
Okay, mine too.
Oh, and I got my product placement.
Now,
there you go.
I'm wondering if your kids created fake accounts to follow yours so that they weren't caught.
My kids created fake accounts to not be associated with me.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's smart. They're smart.
Okay, I got a story to ask you about, Jason. I don't know if this is true. So I'm from a small town called Didsbury, which is right between Calgary and Red Deer.
That's not true.
It's okay. Never mind. So you're not the father.
It's on the police record, but it's not true. Sorry, go on.
There is a story that I was told, and it's kind of gone around, that you were involved in some sort of incident and you were injured and you got treated at the Didsbury Hospital. Does that?
It's happened a few times. I had a stampede injury one time. It was around the Born Again of Dixieland days, and we were playing the stampede, and I got in I got a little overexcited on stage and missed the end of the stage. I had to go to the hospital, but it was so busy during stampede. They said, "Well, let's go to Didsbury." And then another time, well, that doesn't really matter. But another time, I wound up in a different hospital. Clay, he's the one who ends up in the hospital. We did a show at the King Eddie, and is that where it was? It was the King Eddie, right, guys?
Yeah.
And Clay went out on the tables, and he grabbed the light bars, and he was hanging on it, and he rocked his muscle off, and we had to go to the hospital. It was an emergency surgery, and unbelievable. But the guy is a total showman, because we played another like half a set and didn't even know he was in such pain. So, I mean, this band, we leave it all on the stage.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So we can confirm that you have been treated at least one time at the hospital in Didsbury.
I will not confirm or deny the cause, but yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, good.
So you can go back. You can go back to Didsbury and tell the 35 people there that
it's true.
The
it's
urban
true.
myth.
It's not just folklore.
All right.
I did Didsbury.
So let's talk radio a little bit. Patrick and I are both radio guys, and Chris, I don't know if you've done any radio shows at all, but a lot of people in this chat have done or are currently doing radio.
Yeah, well, as you can tell, I'm not really the talker of the group. So me on radio is not. I'm just as good at radio as I am on TV. So
I think the voiceover. I think he could do some voiceover.
You definitely have a great voice for it.
Yeah.
So
Chris is a man of few words. He's the only one with any content. The rest of it is just talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
So Clayton, you were in Edmonton on Kissin' Country there for quite some time. And Jason, you're currently doing the morning show at Pure Country, right?
Pure Country 106.
There it is.
Number one in your heart. Yeah, actually, you know what? It's great. When I started, I was kind of like trying to be a radio guy.
Yeah.
And then like, stop that. Just be yourself. So now I'm myself, and it's a lot of fun. My co-host Carrie, she's like the grown up, and I just have like bunch of goofy sounds I play and tell stupid stories, and it's a lot of fun. But it's early, but you know what? It's a great reason to get up. And it's like, talking about building a community with, touring with Road Hammers and music and all that. The same thing when you're doing radio. It's amazing that you're part of somebody's day, and they look forward to spending the morning in their routine with you.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a really exciting creative outlet too. Like I never was on that side of the microphone before, and I gained a whole new respect for the amount of work and the amount of talent that it takes to deliver something that's poignant and informative and entertaining in 10 seconds. Like it's a tough job, but I enjoyed it. There wasn't a day that I didn't wake up and go, man, I wasn't ever sick of going to the station to do radio. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet gig for sure.
Yeah.
And I love, you also host a 90s show on your station, right, Jason? A 90s country show?
Yeah, it's really great. So, I mean, yeah, it's the era I grew up in, and it's pretty neat because invariably, I mean, as far as Canadian content goes, when I started out, like, we didn't have CMT. It was even before we had any video outlets in Canada. We had New Country Network when I started. So as far as the Canadian rotation stuff, I end up playing a lot of my own stuff. I don't program it, actually, but they end up putting a lot of my own stuff in. So it's interesting backselling your own music. But it's a great walk down memory lane and seeing the progression of country music through the 90s. And it's, of all the things I've done, the amount of DMs I get on Instagram and messages on Facebook and all that stuff, I've never had such a response to something as the 90s show. It's just like people are so passionate and it's so hot right now. And actually there's a 90s tour in the works, depending on COVID rules and all the shakeout here, but hopefully to be this year. But there's some things going on, and it's I didn't realize how big the 90s were. I just knew that I loved them, so it's a great gig.
Is that what you've been digging into lately?
Well,
pretty
heavy? I grew up on a lot of that 90s country too, and it's always kind of befuddled me with radio that you've got classic rock stations and you've got classic hit stations and all these, and I don't know if there's a bigger decade for country than the 90s when you've got Garth and Alan Jackson and George Strait still kicking ass and a ton of great Canadian talent. Why there isn't a straight up 90s country station?
I'm just amazed that I got it wrong at first. See, I thought it was just artists who were in their 90s, and I was like, this is going to be cool. But no, it's actually really great. And, a lot of the stories, all the artists were characters, right? Oh. I mean, Billy Ray Cyrus, the walking mullet. I mean, I had a comparable mullet in the day. But, you got guys like that all the way to Brooks and Dunn. I mean, they were just iconic. They had their Brooks and Dunn auto, remember the car races, the Legends cars and stuff. So it's amazing. And then it's cool to see the artists who are still around today. So you can come off, playing your current music in the morning with Kenny Chesney, and then you're talking about him on your 90s show on the weekend. That's an amazing career.
Well, I will throw you right in there as well, because in preparation for this, I went back. So I started in country radio, and your debut album was 97?
96.
96? Yeah. Okay, so that is right around when I started. And so I remember playing Born Again in Dixieland over and over and over. Anyway, so I went back and listened to the album again last night. It holds up so good, man. It is such a great album.
We recorded that. I was just talking about this with a friend, Waylon Jennings, Tom Paul Glazer, Jesse Coulter, and Willie Nelson created the Outlaw movement. Basically what it was artists in Nashville saying, we're not going to be tied to these labels, being told what to do, and them changing our music for radio. We want to do our own thing. So they bought a studio between 16th and 17th, and they called it Hillbilly Heaven. So Tom Paul actually bought it. And they funded themselves. They put their own money into it, paid for their own records. And this Hillbilly Heaven was responsible for launching the careers of, the Billy Joe Shavers of the world and all these guys who we think of these outlaw, way outside the box kind of guys who created what we enjoy today. They later sold that studio to a group of guys, and it became the Battery. And in that studio, in the upper room, was that the story of the outlaw bit "Don't Get Done Got Out of Hand" at Waylon song, where he says the room filled up with law, and he throws his pouch he had full of cocaine. He sees the cops coming, the FBI, and he just hucks it over his shoulder, and it just by chance it slid like in between these heat registers, and they couldn't find it.
Oh my
that
God.
all happened. That all happened in this studio, which later became the Battery. That's where we recorded Born Again in Dixieland. I stood right in the spot where he recorded all those, they all recorded all those legendary records. So the magnitude of these kind of places in Nashville is unbelievable. It's only, It's about a block away from Whalen's old headquarters, and even though he's been gone for some time, it still has the Whalen W in the window. They blocked out a window in his office because it was all flat black, no windows, and he put a big wood thing in the window with a big W. So every time I drive by it, I'm just like, it's Whalen's joint. It's amazing.
Wow. That's, I mean, you talk about the 80s hair metal scene being kind of the center for debauchery, but I mean, that outlaw movement probably put a lot of those rock and roll guys to shame.
I think so. You were talking about Maple Leaf Gardens, and I saw George Jones there twice, and both times it was one of those, we're going to pause the show while George goes and takes care of the monitors. I mean, even Keith Richards was like, hanging out with George Jones was a little much, man. But it's amazing. I remember being in Nashville. George had just passed, and I was in my backyard working, and the Woodlawn Cemetery is right behind me, and they were doing his ceremony downtown, and I heard them digging in the graveyard with backhoes. It was so surreal. And I said, wouldn't that be odd wouldn't that be something if that was actually George's grave they were digging? So I went back there, talked to the guys, and it was.
Wow.
So George, neighbors, 300 feet apart at one time. But it's just the history of Nashville and just country music in general is amazing.
Yeah, Nashville's a bucket list city for me to get to.
Oh, hell yeah. Such a, vast scene, too.
I should say that Clay and I went out there one night. He had to go to the airport at, 6 a.m. or something. So we went out there the graveyard the night before, and at midnight we sat on George's grave and drank beer. So and it was still fresh. I mean, they still had straw around the whole thing. It was really kind of eerie but amazing at the same time. So we'll have to take our now we can go back with our very own beer and sit in George's grave and drink.
Pour one out.
Yeah. Pour one out. Yep.
That's incredible.
Okay, so what's next? We know that hopefully there's going to be some shows going. Do we have a release date for this EP project?
I know we do. It's coming. I don't know
Silence.
when. But yeah, we got.
Hey, do you have a release date for the?
Nothing solid. Nothing solid. That seems to be a trend on our podcast. Is yes, you have plans, but you cannot mention them.
We're trying to get the exclusive scoops here, but it's not working out very well.
Yeah. We're all.
It's coming.
The album's on its way, and next single is in the works right now. And just the plan is just to keep putting out music and not stop. I think that one thing that this kind of forced stop to touring and everything has given us is lit a fire under our ass to go, we don't want to stop making music. So we're not gonna take the pauses that we maybe had before in between albums. We just want to keep putting out music and just keep creating. We're on a roll, the three of us together, probably more than I think we've ever been in our career. So I think we're just going to keep putting out great music and keep doing what we do.
And as far as like the release of the EP goes, will you go back to a full length at some point? Or I mean, things have changed so much that maybe just releasing EPs is the way to go.
I had an idea, and I don't know how this works, but everything is like we've talked about TikTok. Like a song comes out, everybody's doing a dance to it. It comes out on Instagram. Everybody, it's just we're inundated by stuff. It's almost like this is an era where maybe something really special would be the thing that stands out, something very rare. So, we've talked about non-fungible tokens and things like that, and doing a very special release where it's a limited run. And I was speaking to a company yesterday about doing that. They were one of the original ones that started issuing these, just a couple of years ago. But it's grown into such a big thing that lots of artists can access these things now. And lots of mainstream fans can access them too. You don't have to be some Bitcoin guru way over in the corner. I think something like that's really attractive to me in a full-length form. Maybe we do an LP where it's like, hey, you're going to buy this, and you're going to spend a Saturday night sharing this with your friends and come and listen to this thing the way we used to with vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought about kind of the circling back with modern tech to how we used to appreciate music back in the day too. It's an interesting thought.
Never know.
Listening parties, where someone would host a party on the weekend and it would be like everyone bring their new records, or everyone bring their new CDs or whatever. We'd sit around and listen to the new Black Crowes or something, and just appreciate the whole thing.
Yeah.
I missed that.
And I miss that too, because I really like it now. My son moved from Alberta out to Ontario, and we have pretty much every Thursday night when Spotify releases all the new singles, we go to our release radar and we kind of text each other back and forth or whatever. Sometimes we'll do a video call and talk about, the songs that we're into, but nothing beats that being in the same room, putting it on, and you can see everybody's reaction to how it's going. That is a fantastic idea.
Have you guys taken in any live stream concerts in the last year and a half?
We've hosted a couple.
Yep.
I've seen a few. I think it's entertaining for the minute, but nothing. The part of live music is the magic that's what you're doing. You're conjuring magic. I mean, that's the only real way to describe what a live concert is, and you're moving air molecules and particles in the atmosphere, and you're feeding an energy to a group of people, and they're giving it back to you. And that whole thing can't be experienced over a computer. You have to be in the room, and that's why live music, even after how many generations, since the 60s or 50s, that it's still something that is sought after and people love to do, because there is a magic to being at a live concert.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good explanation, actually. I like that a lot.
All right. Well, we can't wait to hopefully get you guys into Red Deer so you can experience Bose from the stage firsthand. But thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. You guys are unbelievable, and can't wait to hear the rest of the tunes and collaborations, and hammer down.
Guys,
thanks a million, fellas. Hammer down.
The time.
Congrats.
Cheers, boys.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Adios.
Guys, thank you.
Well, that was the Roadhammers.
Good dudes.
Yeah, and we have, I have talked to Clayton before, and funny enough, he brought me beer one time at the station. Do you remember that?
As a matter of fact, he brought us beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was involved in that as
You
well.
were. It was fun. Just sitting around, drinking beer, talking to Clayton. Nice guy, and like we were saying before the episode, you're much more familiar with this world of country, especially back in the 90s, right?
Well, and yeah, like I'd mentioned there as well, I started country radio in 1995, and then on air in 96, and that's right when Jason McCoy released his debut album.
Right.
And I worked country radio for a lot of years. So
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, pretty familiar with those guys.
Like, it's fair to say you worked or to start your career, right? For around there, you worked for what is probably the biggest country station in the whole
country. Yeah. It was nominated CCMAs all the time, and the morning show that was there forever. Doug, Robin, and Dan won countless awards. Scott Phillips, who is the music director, who's now passed on, he won countless music director. It was Country 105 in Calgary was that's where I got my start, and and that was right in the heyday of it too.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I actually have a distinct memory because I did have a bit of a country phase in high school. And I actually remember the day the country station died, I think.
So is there a country station in Toronto? Does Toronto have a country station proper right now?
I don't remember if it was in Toronto, but definitely in Hamilton.
Hamilton had one,
definitely Hamilton. But I think over the years, and maybe it's just a scene that I wasn't too involved in, even with the phase I went through, but I think the country scene in Ontario's grown quite a bit. Like, they have a massive festival out there.
Well, and we talked to the Sheepdogs, a few episodes back, who
Yes,
got their
yeah,
guitar player,
totally.
who they said is the most, country guy
Totally.
in the Sheepdogs with a bunch of Saskatchewaners. So.
But you assume that I've not.
I just assumed,
dipped.
but I am going to say you dipped your toe in.
Pretty heavy, man. I got my toe nice and dirty. I've seen.
Garth,
no
Garth
Garth
involvement.
No.
Wow, Shania.
Nope. No. I saw. Oh, geez. I saw Brad Paisley. I saw all that. Yeah, pop. What they would call that, pop country.
Pop country. But here's the thing with Paisley that I think a lot of musicians are attracted to Paisley because he is a phenomenal guitarist.
Well, that's kind of the thing that I feel about country music is that at the end of the day, all of the performers you're seeing none of them are hacks. Like, they're all very talented musicians, and behind the curtain, not necessarily connected with them, but down in Nashville, there are a million more that are just packing studios, pumping out songs all day long. So it is definitely an interesting industry where there's an immense source of talent.
And how many, like, you would have seen Brad Paisley live then?
Oh yeah, I saw Paisley. I saw
Keith Urban.
Yeah, I saw Keith Urban. I saw Sugarland.
I'll keep my mouth shut there.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you know, I'm not ashamed. I saw a lot of country concerts. I haven't seen any since.
I'm trying to think of what the last country show I would have been at would
Garth.
be. Well, Garth for
Didn't you see him when he came here and played 50 shows in like 2 weeks or whatever it was?
It's 48 shows, but who's counting?
Literally played like 3 shows a
and
day,
actually,
right?
there was one. He did actually. He had matinees and evening performances, and there was one. I can't remember if it was Edmonton or Calgary, but we were so excited because we had like really good seats. But it was the Saddle Dome in Calgary because it's so screwed up for setup. There was like a huge pillar right in front of us to support the lighting rig, right? Because the Saddle Dome is not the best for production setups.
No.
So yeah, we're walking down to these seats. Wow, we're really close. And then there's this pillar right in front.
Could you even like?
I leaned left.
It
pretty
worked?
much. Oh yeah, I had to lean left the whole show. But again, just being raised in rural Alberta, I had a lot of different country influences. For sure.
And had you seen the Roadhammers before?
You know, I have not seen the Roadhammers.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's crazy. Not even Jason McCoy?
Jason McCoy I would have seen, and he talked about a Stampede injury, which I don't know that much more about, but would have seen him at Stampede for sure.
Right. We got any country guys in the studio right now? Ryan, Ryley?
Crickets.
I'm seeing like a rah-rah hand symbol in the background. Yes.
First country artist you think of, Ryan? Paisley. Ryley?
Not much. I'm really into Orville Peck.
Orville Peck. You know what? That's a good point. We should be, Orville Peck. That's he's doing some good stuff. He's doing some really cool things. You're right. You're absolutely right. I do like Orville Peck quite a bit. Maybe because I want to be him. I don't know.
That's just the tumbleweed rolling through.
Have you done? Have you listened to Orville Peck?
I have not listened to Orville Peck.
For real?
I honestly, I will go listen to Orville Peck.
It's like he's like current, man, like real current. Like he put out a Gaga cover like a week ago.
Oh. And what are we like? What kind of country are we talking? Like, is it?
What would you say?
Like a Sturgill Simpson end of things, or no?
It's like a old school, new school blend. It's kind of hard to.
Great explanation. Well, you know what? Orville Peck, and the funny thing about Orville Peck is that until recently, no one knew who he was because he wears kind of this weird dangly bead mask. He's got this great voice, covered in tattoos, great singer. And I found out last summer that I actually know who he is. And I used to follow him and his band around quite a bit, actually. Which I'm not going to say now because I don't know if it's like totally public, but it's mind-blowing to me that that's who that became. So anyways, shout out Orville Peck. I hope we can get him on the show someday.
We're always looking for exclusive things here. You got to break.
No, that one you're not getting.
Maybe
someday.
All right. Huge shout out to Go Services Inc. for jumping on as a sponsor for us this week.
Yes, I want a tour, Dustin, I want a tour of the finest porta potty you have to offer.
And Sawback Brewing and Tourism Red Deer.
Mm-hmm.
We record at Communal. Can we get like a notepad or something? Can we get it written on the table? Just write it into the table right now.
I'm going to get it tattooed all over my arm.
Studios by Bose. Like that. Those aren't even letters.
I can read this. Don't worry about it. Also, please subscribe to the Bose Barn Stage YouTube channel. Like, share, check out our social medias. Shout out to producers Ryan and Ryley. And I think we're gonna definitely be back next Wednesday.
The Road, the Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Ryley Surian. Recorded in Red Deer, Alberta, and in partnership with Bose Bar and Stage, Troubled Monk, and Tourism Red Deer. The Road, the Stage.